Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader Podcast, man. We are so glad to have you here today. Our guest is going to dive into this question. What does it take to perform your best over and over again? He's a mental performance coach. Josh Lifrak is going to answer that question and a lot more today. He has an inspiring book. By the time we drop this, it's going to be out there for you folks, listeners, to get a hold of. It's called Win Today, 6 Steps to Mental Resilience, Peak Performance, and a Thriving Life. It's a practical guide drawn from more than 2 decades of Josh helping elite athletes and business leaders perform under pressure. Over the course of his career, Josh has worked with number 1 golfers, Grand Slam finalists, NFL and NBA stars, and senior executives at major global companies. Now, this is what I kind of find probably the most exciting, because this is the first World Series ring bearer that we've ever had on the show. He served as the front office of the Chicago Cubs as the director of mental skills program during the team's historic 2016 World Series championship, helping players stay focused through one of the most pressure-filled runs in sports history. Today, Josh shares the successes and setbacks that shaped his thinking and explains how the mental habits of elite performers can be applied far beyond sports. He's going to jump in and dive into his framework, 6-point framework, about what it takes to be at that peak performance in your personal and professional lives. Josh, welcome to the Warrior Servant Leader Podcast. We're so honored to have you with us today. And I'm looking forward to diving into a very fascinating conversation.
Thanks so much, Pat. And for those of you who are seeing us on YouTube, you'll know that Pat's got a bunch of bottles of wine right behind his head. So I feel like we can crack one open and just, make this conversation get a little lucid. So that's awesome. But I'm excited to join you. And let's get into it.
Well, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, maybe I should do this in my garage where my Happy Fridge is, and it's full of Guinness. It's full of Guinness, and maybe we could even throw in a little bit of Irish whiskey there.
There you go.
So, I'm going to be self-centered. My first question is, it's all about me. I want to know, what was it like to be 2016 World Series champions?
Yeah, really special. Really special. Definitely got to pinch myself still that I happen to be a part of that amazing organization. And I say special. This is the Warrior Servant Leader Podcast, and one of the reasons the Chicago Cubs were so successful during that period of time, like, we won the World Series, but we also went to the NLCS 3 years in a row, right? And that was the first time in the history of the organization that we had ever done that. And a lot of the reason was everybody in that organization, A, we were moving in the same direction, win this World Series, but B, there was this unwritten value of, we take care of each other. We're going to watch each other's back. We're going to lift each other up. We're going to take care of each other over and over and over again. And that's why, for me, like, the crowning achievement was winning it. And that gave us, it's the right word I'm looking for here, that gave us a lot of, like, satisfaction that we had won it. But the specialness of it was the everyday. It was the people in the organization. It was the people in marketing. It was the people in in charity. It was the people in the baseball office. It was the people who were the coaches in, Tennessee and Iowa and South Bend, Indiana. It was the players on the field. It was the groundskeepers. It was the ticket takers. It was everybody in that organization. It was so ridiculously special. Probably unrepeatable in the sense of how just, like, together everybody was. I don't know. I mean, Arsenal, I don't know if you're a soccer fan or not, but Arsenal just won the English Premier League. And I'm a huge Arsenal fan. I've been since 2000 and whatever. Actually, 1993 is when I first moved, when I was in England for a year, and I fell in love with Arsenal. And I watched that team, and it has that vibe to it that we had in Chicago. And there's a great Albert Einstein quote: "There are things that count that can't be counted." And that's the way it was for us. There was, we have all the analytics and everything like that, but there was something really special there that you couldn't quantify. And it was that, servant leader mindset of, I care about you. I want to care about others first. I want to lift others up first. There was no ego. There was no selfishness. It was, how can we win this World Series for the people of the Chicago area, for the Chicago Cubs fans, not for ourselves, it was all about everybody else. And that's why it was so special.
Wow. And I know I told you offline that, I have these moments where I'm the Irish setter in the backyard, and there goes a squirrel, and I go after that squirrel, and you just said something. As two squirrels actually took flying off as you were sharing those insights. One was, one of the best books I've ever read was called "Ego is the Enemy" by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, stoicism.
And what you were sharing reminded me of a lot of his insights as well, and principles, that it literally is not about you. Or Chris Voss, from the FBI guy that was one of the go-to international hostage negotiator, and he says the same thing. It's not about you, the negotiator. Or Robin Dreek, the worked counterterrorism for the FBI, is one of the best they ever had during the Cold War. Same thing. He goes, it's not about me, the FBI agent. It's about the person that I'm talking to, that actually I'm trying to get them to do something they probably don't want to do, and that's turn on their own country. And so that's what went zipping through my mind. Now, man, I hope I don't offend you by saying this, using these two teams in the same sentence. But the modern day version, I think, in baseball, not in the Major League Baseball, but I think what you just shared is what makes the Savannah Bananas so successful. Not as necessarily as baseball players in a team, but that concept of, it's not about us, it's about the fans that are helping make us successful, and we're here for them. Now, all that comes with challenges and obstacles. What were some of the hardest things you had to overcome in that director's chair of helping players and coaches and support staff maintain for an entire season that high level of performance?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things when you talk about mental performance is you got to practice it, and you got to work at it over and over and over and over and over again. And that's the thing, like, you're never there. You never arrive. Yeah. It's about the journey, right? And so, yoga is called a practice. It's not like you don't win yoga, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a practice, right? I don't know. Maybe they're putting it into the LA Olympics. I could see that happening. But the whole thing is that's I think one of the big challenges is recognizing this isn't mental magic. It's not snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're winning everything and you're more focused and all that stuff. That it takes consistent, thoughtful work day in and day out. And that's really one of the major reasons, Pat, that I did write the book Win Today, was because I saw these six really points that I saw over and over again that these elite athletes were doing time and time again. And I just wanted to share that with more people. One of the things that kind of hit us when we did win the World Series internally, I'm telling you, we literally had conversations about, we weren't trying to win the World Series. We were trying to change the world, because we knew that when we won the World Series, there was a whole ton of Chicago Cubs fans that were going to realize, hey, anything's possible. Mm-hmm. This thing that I thought was impossible, for 108 years, it hasn't been possible. They haven't won the World Series. They're lovable losers. It's never going to happen. They're a cursed franchise, right? And we knew mindsets were going to change. What people thought was possible was going to change. And you were just talking about how you were from Ireland. The day after we won the World Series, Ireland played New Zealand in a rugby match and beat New Zealand, which is like the greatest country. They had never done that before, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my gosh, it's already happening. The other thing that happened was 5 million, not 500,000, not 1 million, 5 million people showed up to the parade the next day after we won. That was the 7th largest gathering in the history of the world. It was the largest non-religious gathering ever in the history of the world. And so here we were, and we're saying, hey, we want to change the world. And we did. And we did. Yeah. And it was like to see the scope of all the people that came out. It was humbling, to say the least. Our players were crying on the floats. It was unbelievable.
Wow. That's the high end of the spectrum. I know in your book, and we're not going to be able to do all 6 principles in one sitting, but the one that I think most people face in their day-to-day lives, and you call it stop the storm, recognize and manage the negative thoughts that sabotage your performance. And that's on the athletic field. And
that's in life too, though. Pat.
Yeah, and that's what I want you. That's what I'd like to get into is what are some of the foundations of that principle is in stopping that negative, self-destructive thinking. And I really want you to. I mean, if there's like, well, yeah, you got to do A, B, and C, or here's like I have things written down that I see every morning to remind me, and I have my morning routine. Yeah. So in that stop the storm, and I know I'm sure you drilled down into it deeply in the book, but kind of give us the big picture of what you have found to be successful for people in everyday life to achieve that mindset.
Yeah, I think this is always really interesting because a lot of people think that the opposite of negativity is positivity, yeah. Right? The opposite of negativity is non-negativity. Okay, so a lot of times it's just eliminating negativity from around you. We call it. It's funny. I work with a company called Limitless Minds. This is a company that was founded by Russell Wilson, and the quarterback who was with the Broncos for a minute and obviously had a ton of success with the Seattle Seahawks. And I met Russ when I was working at a place called IMG Academy down here in Bradenton before he ever entered the NFL. And, the whole concept of our company is to help other companies with their mindset training. Because a lot of companies, they have skill set, but they don't have the mindset. So skill set times mindset, that's your performance. So we took a lot of the things that we learned in the world of sports. And one of the biggest things we learned is that you can be as optimistic as you want. You can be as positive as you want. But if you're not doing the work, you're not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Right. So hey, I'm going to throw 7 touchdowns today. Well, how often did you work on those routes with your receivers? We didn't. Okay. No, good luck, And so the whole point was about non-negativity. And so what we found is that the athletes, they recognize that it's sometimes easier just to not say stupid stuff out loud and to not be negative than it is to be positive. And so just stopping that. So sometimes it's about elimination, right? And subtraction can sometimes be more effective than addition. And so what are those things we call it at Limitless Minds? We call it the negativity audit. What are those things that come into your life that will make you feel a little bit negative? Is there that person that you text that you get into negative conversations with? Oh, I hate that when that happens. ... Poop emoji. Those types of things, right? Is it that I'm watching the news, right? That there was I don't have the exact stats, but there was a study done a couple of years ago that showed if you ingest 10 minutes of network news, whether that be on the internet or actually watching it, you are 35% more likely to say you had a horrible day at the end of the day.
Wow.
Think about that, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Negativity, right? Because I don't know. I didn't look at the news today, but let me guess. war in Iran. There's bombs going to be coming down. It's happening, right? Which, yes, right. And or you know, Ebola's going to break out, or you know, and it's just like okay, thanks, and we click on it because that's what the news does. We want to click, right? And so, yeah, I get it, and we're geared towards that. We're geared towards that negativity. So, stop the storm is all about A, recognizing the things that might hold you back. And then B, not really going to positivity, but more going to this thing that we call neutral thinking. And I describe it in the book. And what neutral thinking is dealing with concrete and objective facts without judging or grading.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, here's what's so. I'm in traffic. I'm in traffic right now. This is a perfect thing that people get pissed off about and they get negative about. I'm in traffic, or yeah, let's just do that. Okay, that's the facts. Instead of it taking me 15 minutes to get from Colorado Springs to Denver today, I don't know if that's how long it is.
You can't go 2 miles in 15 minutes.
There you go, right? Instead of it taking me 15 minutes, it's going to take me an hour. Okay, yeah. That's what's so. So what am I going to do with this? I can't change that. Maybe I can. Maybe there's a different route I can take, right? That's what I could do. I could look up different routes. Or maybe I use this time to make a bunch of phone calls and reach outs and connect with others. Or maybe I use this time to listen to a phenomenal podcast called the Warrior Servant Leader Podcast, right? maybe I do that. But the fact of the matter is, me getting negative and angry and frustrated about the fact that this situation is happening won't help me get out of the situation. What will help me get out of the situation is the next right steps and being objective about what is actually the facts of the situation. Wow.
Yeah, man, there's so many, I'm taking notes. It's like, as you're sharing, I'm going, man, you got to have the right people in the right seats. You can be as optimistic as you want, but you got to have surround yourself with the right people. And, you know, we learned in Parenting 101, I think was the advice. Look at your kids' closest 5 friends that they hang out with. If they're little turd heads, your kid's going to turn into a turd head because you become what you associate with. So you got to have the right people with the right skills in the right seats. What was one thing? The other thing, I love this. I've used it in coaching. Whatever you're looking for, you're always going to find more of it.
Yes.
And people go, well, what do you mean by that? And I'll tell them, well, I'll tell you what, until we meet again next week, I want you to come back and tell me, how many red Volkswagens did you see this week? And they'll come back and they'll go, man, I had no idea there were so many red Volkswagens, because you were looking for it. Yeah. And the same thing is in the mind what you're talking about, that mindset arena is get off the lazy river ride, lose that. I hate this expression. It is what it is. That's a defeatist. And those are all the thoughts that were rapid firing as we were talking. And then the last one, you talked about the neutral, and I call it the 4 R's. Intentionally live your life with, and it takes practice, and it takes repetition, and that's not one of the R's, but it takes repetition. Yeah, you have to do the repetition. That's the 5th R. But if you train your mind that your reaction is not that fight, flight, or freeze mindset, but you train your mind to intentionally do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, it becomes your habit, your culture.
You just hit it, man. It's about training.
Yeah. And so, say somebody's, because right now we're seeing a lot of it with AI and whatnot. People are having to, I love this word, pivot. I don't love that word as sarcasm. That they have to pivot from their current career track to something else because they're being canceled or kicked to the curb, whatever you want to call it. Listeners that are going through that right now, what are the most important mental habits that do they need to develop?
Yeah, I think I describe it in the book as choose growth, right? Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. So that's going to be one of the big things is the world's constantly changing and it's constantly fluctuating. And so, hey, that's okay. Am I so bad that I can't adjust? Am I so rigid that I can't be open and learn new things? And that's going to be the big key. Is this is an opportunity. This is absolute the AI thing coming at us fast and furious. It is an absolute opportunity for us to grow, and we can use AI to help us grow. We can learn a ton.
Yeah.
Apparently, you can take Harvard classes with AI now. You just hit a couple buttons, and all of a sudden, you have the whole entire class, right? So here I am, and knowledge is out there for us. The ability to grow is out there for us. But here's the big thing, Pat, and I think this is really key about AI: is K minus A equals 0. Knowledge minus action equals absolutely nothing. Right. And so one of the things that I talk about in the book is the can-do method. And that's really what it's about. Like, here's this knowledge I have. The knowledge doesn't become actual behavior change or anything until I put it into play, until I act on it. It doesn't matter. It's just knowledge at that point. And so now here I have the knowledge. Now let me use that knowledge. Now when I'm using that knowledge, now that's when the growth happens. And so that's one of the big things too, is that you got to do. Right? Do you remember? I don't know if you remember. You're maybe a couple of years older than I am. Not that much, but there was a commercial back in the day. It was a soda commercial. It was do the do.
Yeah.
Do the do.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. It's like we got to do. And so grab the knowledge, but then apply it. Apply, because otherwise it's just a script on ChatGPT and it just sits there.
Yeah. And another squirrel just went flying by. Speaking of commercials, as soon as you said do, the next thing I literally, this went through my mind, be like Mike.
Yeah.
And, Michael Jordan and Nike shoes and all that kind of stuff. And I know it sold a lot of tennis shoes, still does, all that kind of stuff. But it ranks right up there with some of the worst, for me, some of the worst advice you can give someone when it comes to this mindset. And I'm going to follow, all this is going to follow up because you said, K
minus
A equals 0, but you actually started 0 every day in your mile 0
right.
of how you start at 0 every day. I want to talk about that in a minute, but bad advice a couple that I ever got was, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And that is so detrimental, particularly in the family life and in your work life, is you get that egocentric, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself. And you start eliminating the ability to build relationships and help others build in strengths and overcome their own weaknesses. That was one. And the other one that is kind of along these lines is about be like Mike, is we tend to idolize famous people. And we want to be like them, like Taylor Swift or whomever, Patrick Mahomes, or who in sports, entertainment, or whatever. And we eliminate actually discovering our own uniqueness and our own abilities and gifts that God has given us. And there's a saint in the Catholic Church. He was just made a saint last year. He passed away in 2006 at the age of 15. And he was not American. He was born in France, raised in Milan, Italy, in 1991, died in 2006 of leukemia. His name's Carlo Acutis. And this is from a 15-year-old. And I've really come to embrace this as one of my best quotes ever. Is he said this as a 15-year-old: we're all born unique, but sadly, many of us die a photocopy of someone or something else. And can you kind of dive into that? Because your mile 0, about resetting your mindset every day with courage, urgency, and belief. What's that look like in literally, physically? What do you do or say every day for you to start out at mile 0?
Yeah. So just for the listeners, the concept of mile zero started for me because I was down in Key West, Florida, and there's a road called Highway 1, and Highway 1 runs from Maine to Florida, or Florida to Maine, if you will. And there's literally a signpost that says mile zero, and I'd never seen anything like that. I was like, wow, that's so cool. Because is that the beginning or is that the end? I don't know, right? So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is this. You asked about, like, okay, well, how do we reset every day? One of the things that we know is the past is not predictive of the future. What we think and do in the here and now is. So if I'm going to have a great day and I'm going to win today, I can't live in the past. I have to live in the here and now. So mile zero is more of just a call to action to appreciate what's happened yesterday or the day before or the week before, learn any lessons I can from that, but then recognize that today is brand new. It is brand new. This is it. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Yesterday is in the past. So all we have is right here, right now. This concept really bore its head for me during COVID, where it was like, we just didn't know. We just didn't even know what tomorrow was going to bring. We had no clue. I was working for the New York Mets at the time. We didn't know if we were going to have a job the next day. We literally just didn't know, because we didn't know if the season was going to get canceled and whatever was going to happen. And so it was just, okay, well, how do I win today? Well, the first thing I got to do is I got to recognize that yesterday is done, and let me look ahead to how this is what I got in front of me. How do I go about it? And so that's the big thing about mile zero, is just really, it's just a call to action and a recognition and an awarenessness and a purposefulness about resetting. Yesterday happened. Okay, what does that mean for today? It might mean I need to do A, B, C, and D, but really what it means is that yesterday is done. And I'm going to start fresh today. And here I am. It's the morning. Boom. Let's go. Where am I going? Here's where I'm going. How am I going to get there? A, B, C, D. Let's go attack those things.
Wow. Another squirrel. Here's what I pictured as you're talking about yesterday is the past. And I wrote a note down. I immediately pictured the rear view mirror in your car.
Yes.
And the only time you look in that rear view mirror that's productive is if you're going in reverse. You want to see what's behind you so you don't hit it. Otherwise, if you're constantly looking in that rear view mirror as you're driving, you're never going to successfully and safely get to where you're going, because you're always looking at where you've been, that kind of analogy. And that's what I was picturing as you talk about doing that, resetting your mind every morning or every day is, and do it intentionally. And a lot of our listeners, come from a strong faith background. It's literally, when I wake up and my feet hit the floor, this is how I reset my day every day. I literally say out loud, quietly, because my wife's usually asleep because I'm getting up at 5:45. I literally say, "Thy will be done." That I want God to lead me, and I want to do what He has in store for me. And I have my to-do list, and I have things I have to get done, but I want to get them done in concert with God's will and be open to opportunities in simple little things, because you never know. And I don't know, you remember Paul Harvey? The rest of the story. You may never know the Paul Harvey rest of the story of how you impacted somebody's life. And I've only had one or two really incredible Paul Harvey moments, but I don't know, anybody you've coached or have come back to you, 15, 20 years later and said, "Hey, coach, man," and then you get to hear the rest of the story because of something you did or said in their life?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I actually talk about this in the book, and I talk about a player named Anthony Giansante. And G was a minor league player and never made it to the major leagues, but then ended up having a really great career down in Mexico, believe it or not. So he went international and played down there for a number of years. And, he called me probably about 3 years ago when I was writing the book, and he was just like, "Hey, man, just thanks. And I was like, what are you talking about, G? He's like, thanks for all the stuff you taught me when I was with the Cubs. I've used that to prolong my career. I had like a 10-year, baseball career as a professional down in Mexico. And, that was the dream, right? That's the dream for these guys. Is obviously the ultimate dream is to play in the major leagues, but 20,000 players ever that have played in the major leagues ever. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of them that just that don't ever get there. But this person made a absolute career out of playing, and has a great life, has an incredible wife and a beautiful child. And it was just great to hear from him and talk to him. And that happened Pat, that happened a lot too, where you would you're giving a talk in spring training or in fall instructs or something to that nature. And those guys in the back of the room were like tapped out, and you're like, okay, man, it's your career or whatever. I'm getting the information. We're coaching you up, and come to see them 5 years later in their major leagues or in their AAA or whatever, and they're like, hey, man, that thing you said back in the fall of 2014, that really stuck with me. And you're just like, what? Hey, I thought you were asleep, man. What the hell? So it's like, you never know. You're right, Pat. You never know, and that's why you got to show. That's why Mile Zero is so important too, because you just got to show up.
Yeah.
You just got to show up, because you don't know who you're going to impact. You don't know if that smile to the cashier at Trader Joe's is going to make a massive impact on their life. I don't know. I don't know what they're going through, but I can choose how I'm going to show up. And that's it's funny, because that's chapter 1 of the book, is to define your story, decide who you're going to be every single day. And that could be, I'm going to be faithful and I'm going to walk with God. That's great. That's unbelievable. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Say it louder for the people in the back of the room, right? And it's and that's it. Like, and then you get to choose. You get to choose who you want to be to honor that and walk through that path.
Wow, that's and I, even if you're not a person of faith, I get that, and we've all struggled. I've struggled and had those down moments. I've read Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, now Saint Teresa. I've read some stuff about her, and she's probably the greatest in my lifetime warrior servant leader in a life that she chose and did not have to go that route, but she followed God's calling and her gifts and whatnot. But if you read her stories and some of her interactions with people, there were times that she had incredibly deep doubt about herself and what she was doing, but she had surrounded herself with only 4 or 5 really close personal folks that could talk to her, and she could talk to them and not be offended, and most men don't have this, that you have that very close friend that can tell you, hey, get your head out of your anal orifice. You're acting like a buffoon, and not get mad at them for telling you that. And we don't have that. Men typically don't have that. I can't agree with you more about having that focus and that intentional mindset to every day reset and go, the past is the past. And it's called the past for a reason. I'm trying to think. This is kind of crazy. You've spurred, and I haven't thought about this guy in years, although I may have mentioned it to you offline previously, but he was with the Cubs, Jim Tracy. Got called up to play right field. And I watched him play that day. The Pope got shot. The Cubs were playing the Reds in Cincinnati. And I remember that day, but Jim was like, he got called up because of injuries or whatever. And then they told him, hey, you're going back down. And he's like, nah. And he had a great career in Japan. And then his career, he was the manager of the Dodgers. He was the manager of the Pirates, the Rockies, and just had an incredible career and played a very, very short period of time in the bigs. But the people that shaped his life, I bet, is just going to be an incredible list of folks. And I think to go along with that, for our listeners, if somebody has impacted your life like Josh just shared the feedback he got. Man, reach out to people that have been that positive influence and tell them, because so often we never get that feedback. And I'm not talking about pats on the back, but it's so encouraging to, follow that intentional mindset when you do know the outcomes of other people.
Yeah. It's funny, Pat, you just described chapter 2.
Oh, really?
which is build bonds in the exercise. And that we have an exercise. I wrote an exercise at the end of every chapter. And the exercise is to reach out to people that have impacted you every single day, and just shoot them a text or give them a call and just say thank you. Because you know what you're doing then? You're lifting them up. You're lifting them up too. They poured into you. They did something for you. They made an impact on you. Give them that gratitude, because that's going to really impact them. And it's amazing how much more you actually get back when you do that. It's just really incredible.
Oh, and you know what? It doesn't have to be somebody that was outside, an outside influence. Say, do that with your siblings and your parents. If they're folks are still alive, is give them that call going, hey, I'm not calling because I want something. I just want to say thank you for, how you raised me, kind of deal, because nothing is guaranteed in life. I want to just kind of go a little bit.
Do you want to just call my kid real quick and let him know that?
Yeah. Mess with your kids and call them and just say, hey, thank you for being my son or daughter, and I'm proud of you, because we don't say that enough as parents, and they go through life, especially if you have one. We had 5 kids, and I'm telling you, and all adult, well into I got 2 grandkids, and gosh, I got a granddaughter who's going to be 21 coming up here shortly, or 20. Yeah, 20. Is how often have you heard as a parent when your kids become adults, and this is the stories that they now feel comfortable telling you, but they also will tell you, when I was a kid, you and then pick the younger child's name, get away with murder, but man, you held me accountable. And you think about it and you're going, I don't know how many times I told my kids as they were growing up I was proud of them. I'm sure I told them I love them and things like that, but actually said to them, hey, I'm proud of who you are, not what you're doing, but who you are and who you're becoming. And I think that's part of the learning process, that for adults, it's hard to grasp this mindset you're talking about if they didn't see it or live it growing up as children.
Yeah. Well, it takes courage sometimes to get out there and try something new.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, change is inevitable. So might as well get ahead of it and just, maybe do something that feels a little bit uncomfortable. Just reach out and say thank you to somebody.
Yeah. What are some other things? I mean, some practical, if somebody wanted to start applying your 6 principles immediately, what is, I don't know, for lack of a better term, one simple exercise that they could start doing right now that's going to get them on that path of having a more fulfilled, and I don't even mean successful, what is it? The scripture, a life more abundant.
Yeah.
What are some simple exercises?
I call it a thriving life, right? It's thriving, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I wrote the book, so people could live the lives they want to live and how they want to live them. Not so much what they want to accomplish. Yeah, that's awesome, and accomplishing things is really important. But it's also about, like, how do you want to go through this earth? How do you want to go through this life right here, right now? And who do you want to be in the world? So that's the easiest step. I call it define your story. And it's about deciding to live a life by design versus a life by default. And what that really is, and how it starts every day for me, is I just choose an intention. Who am I going to be today? I'm going to be fun. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be relaxed. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to be gracious. I'm going to be whatever you want to choose. Just choose it. But we don't, most human beings don't. I get out there, I talk in front of sometimes as many as 10,000 people, sometimes as little as 20 people. And when I ask this question, how many of you set an intention every single day? How many of you decide who you're going to be every single day? It's probably like 2 people in the crowd, 3 people in the crowd that raise their hands, right? And it's really, it takes 10 seconds maximum to just decide. Once you decide, it's boom, I say it either out loud or I write it down. If I write it down, I got a 48% greater chance of actually achieving it. If I don't, right? It's goal setting research. So if I write it down, hey, I'm going to be kind today. Beautiful. Great. Now guess what happens when you say that? You start creating a picture of what that's going to look like. Right? I'm holding the door for somebody as I go into the grocery store. I'm a little bit more patient with somebody when I get frustrated. I'm going to listen first before talking first, right? It's all these little actions that come into your mind, but that's it, man. That's the easiest, simplest thing to do. And so I would encourage all the people that are listening to this, write down who you're going to be for the rest of this day. I don't know when you're listening to. Maybe you're listening to this thing right at the beginning of the day. Maybe you're listening to it at the end of the evening. But just deciding, hey, I'm going to be this for the rest of the day. Awesome. And it could be anything. But the whole point is that you're doing something with purpose and on purpose, that you're taking control of one aspect of your life, and that's deciding who you're going to be. And when you decide who you're going to be, you have a better chance of actually achieving that and just being that day.
Wow. Yeah. You call it, I read so many books. I got like 5 books I'm reading all at the same time. Drives my wife nuts.
One of those win today, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Come on now. Here we go.
June 9th, it will be. She gets mad at me because I leave the book at whatever room I'm reading it in because
it's like my readers. I leave my readers everywhere. They're just everywhere all over the house.
So I'm reading I can't remember which book it is, but the principle is begin with the end in mind. And I just don't remember which book it is, but it's begin with the end in mind, and then you can strategy, whatever. I wrote a note down earlier. Most people say strategy culture eats strategy.
For lunch or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I wrote down strategy eats optimism. You can be the most optimistic person in the world, but man, if you don't have a good plan and strategy and the skills, and everything begins with strategy, then you can be as optimistic as you want, and you're going to end up nowhere. But one of the things I grasped a long time ago to do exactly what you're saying is I call it the life sentence. We all have a life sentence, and that sentence is the one sentence people are going to share about you at your funeral. And if your funeral was tomorrow, I challenge people, and I do this with cops and military people a lot. If your funeral was tomorrow, what's the one sentence people are going to say about you, and write it down. And then now write down, what do you want them to say? And then write down, what are you doing that's not living that saying? And your life sentence is going to, as you grow and mature and age, your life sentence, I guarantee you, is going to change to some degree. But if you have that, like you say, every day, what are you going to do? And I have a life sentence, and I've written it down. Oh, and here's the other thing I tell them to do is write down the 3 goals you're going to achieve in the next 90 days. Not attempt, but actually are going to achieve. And write all that down, put it in an envelope, and address it to where you want that letter sent in 6 months. and then I'm going to pay for the postage and I'm going to send it to you. And it's kind of a letter from you to you, kind of the dear younger me kind of deal.
Yeah, I love it.
But that life sentence I wrote it down, and literally it's this simple. I died my funeral's tomorrow. I hope people come, and the one sentence they say is, Pat impacted my life in a good way. And then if I know that's what I want them to say. So every day, that's how I reset and start is today I'm going to impact somebody's life. And it may be being gracious, being kind, doing something fun with somebody else, all those things. And then you know what? It doesn't feel like I'm having to try so hard.
Yeah.
It becomes natural.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think, because I got so many questions I want to ask. I know we've talked about what have we not talked about?
Pretty much
I'm looking at your we're actually hitting a lot of the 6 principles. Talk about building strong relationships.
Yeah.
And why that is important in the big picture.
Yeah. I've had this question asked to me recently, and I just sat there and I go, when was the last time anything great in the world ever happened by yourself, like that the person just did it alone? And I can't think about it. Like I'm open to suggestions on it, because I can't think for the life of me like one great impactful thing that's occurred in the world where the person did it completely alone. Mount Everest had a whole team. 4-minute mile, trained, had an actual race that day, had timers, had all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. You have to have other people in your life for anything great to occur. Even listen, even like, what was it, like Walden and like Muir Woods and, like whatever those, Ralph Waldo Emerson stuff, where they went to the woods they still were writing for an audience.
Yeah.
But the audience still had to be there for them, right? So it's you always need somebody else. And it's the old phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's the whole key for me is when you build bonds, what happens to you is you're able to really kind of shed all those other pieces that are holding you back, because now you have people to lean on. You have people to, it's funny. I actually, I'm going to show you this real quick. I have this on my desk. This is the Hindu god Ganesh. Ganesh is the Hindu god of removing obstacles. I literally had this tapestry in my office in Mesa, Arizona, where we had spring training when I was the director of the mental skills program for the Cubs. And the reason I had that is because oftentimes the biggest thing that holds us back is ourselves.
Yeah.
So guess who helps us get out of our own heads a lot? Is other people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so a lot of times in silence, that negativity rises, right? When I'm quiet in my mind, I think that's why people like really kind of like shy away from meditation and things of that nature. Now, what's really interesting is prayer is a form of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot more people meditate than they're really willing to admit. But what happens is your mind gets quiet, right? And so in that quietness, lots of things flood in. Now, if I got somebody to share that with, I got other people to lean on, I got other people to support, that's awesome. Like that's going to help me get out of my own mind. The other thing is this: if I'm supporting somebody else, guess what I'm not thinking about? Myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm able to get outside of my own head too, and I get to quote unquote, as my wife, when we used to live in New York, would say, "Hey, get over yourself." Right. Right. And so it helps you just get over yourself a little bit. And I think that's it. I mean, we're a species of connection. We absolutely are. And this actually, who brought this to light to me, Pat, was a gentleman named Tim Tebow. And Tim was a part of the Mets when I was part of the organization. And we were chatting after a talk we had in spring training. And he said he thinks that the human mind is actually set up for us to connect with others.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a very spiritual person. And so his connection was with God and then with others as well. And so I thought that was really great. And it was a good eye opener for me too,
Yeah. I mean, it's right in Genesis,
Yeah.
it's not good for man to be alone. So Adam was by himself and God goes, it's not good. And, and everything, even though he was surrounded by the Garden of Eden and all of creation. And then after, the creation of Eve, whether you believe that as a factual story or symbolic or, an analogy or whatever, nonetheless, the point is that we are not meant to be living in isolation.
No, we are not.
And I'm telling you, if you want, if I was going to go, if I was younger, like a lot younger, I think I'm a lot older than you think I am. But if I was a lot younger, I would be getting a PhD in COVID-19 and all the damage that was done psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because of being alone. And how many kids that are now young adults from that time point or that time frame, or even not young, younger adults, that the number one complaint they have is loneliness, and they're surrounded at work. They're married. They have families. They have neighbors, and they still tell you one of my biggest struggles is loneliness. And I think a lot of that is 2 years of that isolation kids felt. Like my 20-year-old granddaughter she played sports, high school women's sports, rugby, and lacrosse, and how much she missed the camaraderie. And she became kind of a bookworm in a way, and just, fell in love with reading, but even now that's her default thing. She's not buried in a tablet or a phone. She's buried in a book. And I think we need to, as older adults, particularly as parents, is tell our kids, put that crap down and let's interact and grow. And you can't build the type of relationships you're talking about that make a difference in your life. You can't do that on Snapchat and Facebook and other things.
No, definitely not.
And so, it's
well, that's why I call it Win Today, right? Because it's like you do these things, you do the 6 things, you define your story, you build your bonds, you get present, you are here now, right? You stop the storm, you recognize negativity is going to happen, you move past it, you grow in some way, shape, or form, you choose growth, and then you reset. Boom. You do those 6 things every single day, you got a better chance to win than if you don't do them.
Yeah. And man, this is great. I can't wait for the book to come out now, because I'm like, I know we're recording this before it's actually been released. But I'm like, okay, I've already written myself a note. Amazon, order book.
You can pre-order right now. It's
okay. Well,
you can pre-order right now, and it'll come to you. It'll just show up on your mind.
See, I told you offline. I suck at technology, and I don't even grasp it. I can order something that isn't coming out yet. That's not out yet. Oh, great! Okay. Note to self. I'm writing it right now. Pre-order. All right.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it.
Some kind of parting, I know I've asked you a lot of questions, and we've gone down, rabbit holes or chasing squirrels. Is there something you want to share that you were like, Pat, please ask me this question that I haven't asked?
No, you've asked a ton, and we've covered a ton. I just think, again, the big key things that I hope people take away from our conversation is, number one, the past is not predictive of the future. What you think and what you do in the here and now are. Number two is, when you do the work's going to work on you. So this mental skill stuff, the mental conditioning stuff, it's a journey, and it's every day. It's every day. It never stops. You got to keep cultivating your culture. You got to keep cultivating your mind. And honestly, while it may seem challenging, once you get used to doing it and you just do it every day, it just becomes your habit. and all you do is reap the rewards. So
Wow.
I think those are the big things I would hope people take away from this. And, just go get the book at joshualifrak.com. Just come on over, get it.
So that was my next and kind of, I guess, final question. How do people contact you?
Yeah, people can get me on LinkedIn. That is absolutely the best place to grab me. You can shoot me a direct message there. I'll connect with you there. So if you have any questions, just go on LinkedIn, and it's Joshua Lifrak, Lifrak. And then, again, for the book, if you're interested and want to learn a little bit more about me or see other podcasts or see, different posts and things, you can just go to Joshua Lifrak, Lifrak.com.
Okay. So if they're looking for a mentor, a coach, a speaker, the .com's the place to go.
Yeah, they can do that, or again, just hit me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get me.
Okay. Awesome, man. Josh, what a great conversation. This has been a lot of fun. And for our audience, if today's episode resonated with you, reach out to Josh, get his book, dive into it. If you're like me, when I read it, I read a book usually 3 times. I read it cover to cover, then I read it with a pen and a highlighter, and writing notes in the side, and then I'll read it a 3rd time and have literally a legal pad, and I'm writing all sorts of stuff because I see and grasp things differently on that 3rd read. If that's you, don't make excuses. Grab the book and start growing in the ways that Josh, from his experience and stories, knows it works. The other thing is, if there's someone that that needs to hear this message today, please share it with them, because that's how we impact the lives of others, when we put their wants and needs before our own. I'm going to close with what I always do. A couple of things. One is follow us on LinkedIn. Definitely, you're already listening to the podcast. If you haven't jumped on LinkedIn, at Pat Welsh JD, the Warrior Servant Leader podcast has a newsletter there. We're pushing 1,000 subscribers, and yes, it's free. Join that community of like-minded people, because that's how you build bonds and develop relationships. And then the final thing, every episode I close with, always, always, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's what warrior servants and leaders do every day, every time. Love you all, and see you next week.